Imagine a guy who wasn't German, didn't have a driver's license, and career-wise and artistically, mostly just failed. Yet, with a handful of speeches and sharp party organizing, he rewired the 20th century. Contradiction after contradiction. Today, we're digging into 10 lesser-known, weird facts about Hitler. Some of them will probably surprise you. Fact 1. Until 1932, Hitler wasn't even a German citizen. Hitler was born in 1889 in Braunau am Inn, a border town in Austria. He held Austrian papers for years. In 1925, he formally renounced Austrian citizenship after the failed 1923 putsch to dodge legal troubles and avoid possible extradition. The result? Several years of complete statelessness. The head of a far-right party in Germany, living with no official nationality. Only in early 1932, via an administrative maneuver in the state of Brunswick, he was appointed to a minor government post, which, under the rules, automatically made him a German citizen. That step cleared the path to run for president and, later, to be appointed chancellor. Without that paperwork dance, his entry into formal national politics would have been flat-out illegal. A would-be leader of Germany without a country. One of the odder chapters of his political life, and a reminder of how hard he leaned on legal loopholes. Fact 2. The rejected artist who failed Vienna's academy twice. In 1907, the young, hopeful painter took the entrance exam for the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts and was rejected. He tried again the next year. Rejected again. The jury's view? Weak at figures and portraiture. Maybe, at best, suited for architecture. Architecture, though, required a high school diploma and technical portfolios, things he didn't have. So, in the early 1910s, he scraped by painting watercolors of facades and city views, selling them like postcards. Later, party propaganda downplayed these early failures to protect the Führer image. The psychological imprint, though, didn't vanish. When the Academy's gate shut, he learned a brutal lesson. What doesn't sell in galleries can move mountains in politics if you turn it into images. Posters, emblems, uniforms, parades, monumental architecture, all staged as a non-stop theater of power. Fact 3. Hitler for the Nobel Peace Prize? The headline was a sarcastic protest. You may have seen the sensational line, "Hitler was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize." Here's the fine print. In 1939, a Swedish MP who opposed fascism submitted Hitler's name on purpose, as satire, to mock the political naivete of those soft on aggression. The move was quickly withdrawn. It wasn't a real endorsement, it was a pointed political stunt. Why it matters? Even back then, people argued fiercely over legalistic appearances versus violent reality. And propaganda tried to spin the headline while the details told a very different story. Fact 4. Time's Man of the Year in 1938, but not as praise. Time's tradition is to pick the year's most influential figure, good or bad. In 1938, Hitler made the cover because massive events that year revolved around his decisions. The Anschluss with Austria, pressure on Czechoslovakia, the practical tearing up of Versailles limits, and prepping for war. People sometimes confuse it with an award. It isn't. Time measures impact, not virtue. Knowing this helps stop lazy takes. One person can dominate headlines and still be a moral catastrophe. Separating influence from values is crucial, then and now. Fact 5. One of the first big state-backed anti-smoking drives. Paradox time. The Nazi regime was committing systematic crimes while simultaneously restricting cigarette ads, limiting smoking in certain public spaces, and funding research on tobacco's harms. Why? A mix of ideological body health obsession and a utilitarian view of citizen fitness. From rules for pregnant women to ad crackdowns, the policy framed healthy bodies as parts of the state machine. Knowing this doesn't make the regime progressive. It clarifies how ideology shaped social policy. The takeaway? Even policies that look health-friendly can become tools of control inside a totalitarian system. Fact 6. The car-obsessed leader with no driver's license. The iconic image pairs him with luxury Mercedes motorcades and endless parades. Here's the twist. He never drove and never held a license. He had a personal driver, with trips choreographed by security teams. Yet he fetishized cars and highways as symbols of modern speed. Politically, he pushed the people's car idea, making private ownership feel attainable for lower-income Germans. That became the KDF-Wagen, known after the war as the Volkswagen Beetle. Ferdinand Porsche did the heavy technical lifting, but the regime steered the project's messaging and ideology. The new order, delivering comfort to the masses. The irony writes itself. The champion of a car for everyone didn't have a license himself. Fact 7. The Hitler built the Autobahn myth is oversimplified. Yes, the Nazis scaled highway building and used it as industrial theater. But high-speed road concepts and early builds predated them, back in Weimar times. A key example, the Cologne-Bonn Road opened in 1932, before the Nazis took power. What they did was supersize budgets and labor, and brand the whole thing as the Führer's triumph through ceremonies and naming. Media lesson. When an earlier structure exists, propaganda inflates and reframes continuation as invention. It hijacks origin credit while magnifying the scale-up. Fact 8. The hard-to-kill dictator who survived repeated assassination attempts. Not all Nazis worshipped him. Army conspirators, led by officers like Klaus von Stauffenberg, plotted to bomb a meeting at the Wolf's Lair HQ, paralyze the regime, and seize Berlin under the codename Operation Valkyrie. The bomb was placed in a briefcase under the table, but a few variables flipped the script. The meeting moved to a lighter, wooden-walled room, the briefcase got nudged, and the blast was partially deflected. He was injured, but lived. The Berlin coup sputtered and collapsed by evening. A brutal wave of arrests and executions followed. Many plotters were hanged or shot. The episode shows deep cracks even inside the Nazi military machine, with parts of the elite concluding that continuing the war meant national ruin. Fact 9. The family member who stood against him. Before the war, William Patrick Hitler, his half-nephew, spent time in Germany, but the relationship with his powerful uncle turned sour. When war began, he went to the United States and served in the U.S. Navy as a medical assistant. Afterward, he changed his surname to get out from under the Hitler shadow. It's one of those jarring historical ironies. While Reich propaganda mythologized blood and race, a close relative stood in the enemy's ranks. Not a throwaway tabloid note. It shows how ideological talk fractures even in the most private circles. Fact 10. The Jewish family doctor who got an exception. Eduard Bloch, the Hitler family's physician in Linz, cared for Hitler's mother during her illness. Years later, amid anti-Jewish policy, special exceptions were granted so he could settle his affairs, leave Austria, and reach the U.S. Why the story matters. First, it shows an old personal bond that even the regime's gears didn't fully crush. Second, it reveals how the security apparatus used exceptions to head off PR headaches. Third, it exposes a regime's core contradiction, dehumanizing a group with one hand while making a personal exception with the other. None of this erases the regime's anti-Semitic, criminal nature. It just highlights the depth of its hypocrisies. Those were 10 odd, under-the-radar facts about Hitler and the Third Reich. If you like this kind of precise, off-angle history, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next episodes on Rarely Heard Facts. And tell us in the comments, who should we cover next?